Hello, good evening. I am Fikiri, the Dark Feminina. Welcome, blessings, kudos for stopping this way. I hope you'll stay for a nice short exposition. Now, I'd just like to read you something. This is from a book I came across in the 1980s. It's the anthem, well, it just says Anthem of the Decades by Mazizi Kunene of Kyalo Coast, South Africa, KwaZulu. And he's talking, it's a very long poem that he wrote with ancestral help from the creator, of the ancestors, of course, and with reference to his great grandmother, Makandeyana of the Umdali family. To quote, he says, "She was one of the greatest oral historians and narrator of legends I have ever met. Knowledge is of the ancestors," she once said. And she also said, he says, "the meaning of her words did not sink in at first. He says, I only began to understand when she commenced her teaching, covering not only the ideas of the origin of life, the authority of man on earth and medicine, but also the words and their secret meanings." She said, she often concluded her discussions with the words, "The secret of ancient wisdom lies in the names of things and their forgotten meanings." And he quotes her, his great-grandmother, as saying, "Our world is not the only one. There are numerous other worlds, some at the stage of completion, some at the stage of unfolding, some at the stage of annihilation. These worlds are so far away that they have their own suns and moons. Each of them is self-sufficient in much the same way as our world. The dewdrops on a spider's web describe these varied and numerous worlds." And it's a beautiful poem, and it expresses and explains a lot of Zulu belief and philosophy, and it is certainly worth reading if you can get hold of it. It's here. My old copy that I've had since the 1980s that I cherish, and I'm not lending to anyone because it's blessings to Amazon, really. I know they get criticized, but this is my copy that I bought from a bookshop that is now closed down, unfortunately. I believe I got it from Head Start in West Green Road in North London, Tottenham, 1980, whenever it came out, I dare say, or was it's first published 1981, so I bought it about 1983 or so, or those years. I was new to London, really. I was born in London, but I grew up in Yorkshire and then Bedfordshire, and so at 19 I was back living in London. And this bookshop was a place I was frequenting a lot because they had books that essentially couldn't be found anywhere else. Anyway, good luck to you. Blessings to you to help you find it, because it is worth reading. Because as Africa is full of wisdom. The creator created Kyalo first the Nile Valley, then Kyalo, which is of course is Kyalo Tutsi, Egypt, Masra, and then Kyalo Su, then Kyalo, which is Sudan, both Sudans, and then Kyalo Wo, which is all of Ethiopia, including Eritrea and Tigray, and then Somalia, including Somaliland, and the originals are different to the various Forma allowed political changes, or some were difficultly brought about, but Forma behind all this, allowing either prophecy and Forma can sometimes allow for various changes, at least in the past. We are now supposed to be aiming at the original, because the original performer of the first generation, the first two generations really, the first two humans and their children as they grew up, there's the first performer of mouvement throughout Kyalo Tutsi, throughout Kyalo, that is the whole of Africa, and then throughout Kyalo Jew and all the Middle East and Asia, then Europe, and then the the Americas. And we are supposed to be aiming at honoring, we're supposed to honor the reigning performer to avoid illness, extreme weather, animal attacks of various kinds. We really are in need of honoring the creator. Otherwise, people who won't are fighting the creator. And you're fighting everybody's needs, because nobody wants those horrible things, invasions, injustice. Nobody wants that. And I'm just wanting to encourage people to know that the world was taught through Kyalo. Kyalo Tutsi, through the Nile Valley, the kingdom of Kyalo Tutsi, Egypt, Misra, she taught herself. She was taught by the Creator and the heavenlies, including the Nither, the gods, and the saints. And she then, Kyalo Tutsi taught the rest of Kyalo as it was settled. And there is no land that was not settled in the time of the first two generations of human beings. Essentially, that was it. Sometimes their children were here, the second generation's children, but it was settled way back then, thousands and thousands of years BC. Look, and Kyalo, she made an effort to try and save the world. You wonder where her palaces are, her castles, her walkways, her space stations. People talk about them in Kyalo, but the rest of the world usually doesn't know that unless someone tells them. She was taught first. The whole of Kyalo was settled before anywhere else in the world, even before the kingdom of Judah. That is all the land of Israel, and the original land of Israel. She was there. And her reputation as the teacher of the world has gone missing. It's too hidden, and it can be taught again. She decided about the year 1000 AD, roundabouts those years, there was prophecy, obviously before that, but there was certainly prophecy that terrible times were coming ahead, and that the evil death cults, who were such the bane of Kyalo's existence and the rest of the world's existence, but obviously by then there'll be many wars, much injustice, much needless bloodshed. The Son of the Creator, Ivri, the Lord Jesus Christ, did come. We didn't take his words to heart enough as humanity, and we ended up killing the author of life. And before then, on a smaller scale, however many people's lives were not the creator, is what I mean, different selves of the Son of God had come and taught and helped and healed and been treated in their times, and they'd visited different nations. They'd been incarnated to different nations before that final big coming of the Lord Jesus Christ in 1 AD, and it was 1 AD. The messing around with dates and times is sometimes just messing around, and it's really playing with people's heads and their understanding. It's not good. It creates instability that is not a good instability, and can cause, and obviously things that that are not holy, they are unjust, and they cause more unjust. The teachings of Kyalo's role in the world has also got very inaccurate. The prophecy was given that terrible times were coming. And so Kyalo, one of the decisions they made was to either spell hidden their buildings, their palaces, their various properties, motorways, space stations, and castles, their libraries. And they hid many, and many they actually took down. So they're just hard to find. And the structures that were spelled hidden are hidden. Of course, if they're spelled hidden, if it's not the Creator's will, if it's not the will of the created heavenlies, then geophys will not be able to find them. They'll reappear, just like artifacts do, cups and what, and bless all the bodies of our ancestors of Kyalo Tutsi that sometimes they let themselves be found. Sometimes the reason that you don't find, that people haven't found so many millions and millions and millions and millions of people's homes and chariots, and is because they're hidden. They're spelled hidden. The creator has hidden them, and they appear as allowed by the creator and heavenlies, the created heavenlies, that is. And so it was a self-sacrifice that Kyalo took because she taught the world all the mechanics, digitals, technical everything, architectural everything. She taught the world at the beginning of human founding of nations and since. And but they saw the First World War. They actually saw the Crimea coming. There's not just Kyalo persons who saw, but Kyalo decided to hide her greatness, her glory at Selah, for this reason, to save lives. She knew she was going to be in for a difficult time as Kyalo, but the prayer was that it wouldn't be just terrible and just difficult. Kyalo, that is all Africa, they started hiding most of their buildings. And not everybody who was aware, that was there at the time, 1000 AD, 1100 AD, it's not that they weren't building at all, but they did take a decision that over the centuries following then to hide and take down a lot of their buildings, because they saw the First World War coming. And one aim was to make that war won by the right people and to not be as terrible as it was, and for all the lives who were lost, and we know there were millions of lives lost, it could have been worse. And they did the same for the Second World War. One of the aims was to try and prevent the Holocaust, to prevent the killing, to prevent there being a desperate need for war against evil. This is part of the world's hidden, well, as in under-taught massively, history. And Nyana, it is true. And Selah, Emet, Hakik, Pravda, truth, was lawyer. It is true that this is what happened. And all under prophecy, Ma'at. It was not uncontested that this was the best way to try and save the day, but they made the effort, and the people could have been taught and taught and taught in the 20th century, but then the evil that gets hold of people and has still got hold of too many people today, that seems so appealing because you ill-treat somebody else in order to save yourself, and it seems quick and easy, but that's opposed to the Creator. You don't do injustice, which is what people have been wanting to do, and that's what they've been taught to do by the evil, the BA, death cults, that don't all wear particular makeup or particular dress. It's just anyone and everyone from all walks of life, unfortunately, across the world, including Europe, including the Americas. Look at the situation today. It's got hold of too many people. And when I say today, I'm not one of those who blame Russia and blame Putin for everything, because when I pray and I ask for the truth of what is happening today, that's not what the Creator and the created heavenlies, including my personal spirit helpers, have been telling me. So it's worth a divinare to find out what, who, where. It's not that everybody in Russia is innocent, because there are people, I'm not talking about the president, I perceive groups of the wrong kind of darkness, of people thinking that if they're unjust to somebody else, just like they are in the West, hence the problem, that somehow for them personally, they'll be protected, they'll be able to hide their secrets, and all of this untruth that people indulge in. It's really dangerous stuff, and it sways families, sways family life, it sways friendships, it sways businesses, prosperity, and it ruins as it's going, because what else would a big lie and lots of unjust do? What else would it do? You know the real answers, really. So prayers, patla, for people to be centered. Kyalo made all that effort. She knew it was going to be difficult. People knew it was going to be difficult for Kyalo in the future. But it needn't have been this difficult. It's because people got lazy, complacent around the world, including in Kyalo, were thinking just that if they choose an ancient injustice that parades itself as ancient truth, ancient law, ancient is just the opposite of, it's ancient, long-standing BA, is that it's opposed to Ma'at, opposed to the Creator. And it's just anti-love, anti-life, anti-goodness. And one of the teachings that got hidden was how Africa's traditional religions, if you wish to call it that, they're actually ancient Christianity. And then of course everybody starts arguing, no, not what I believe, and no, it's not believe, and my understanding of the Bible is, and everybody starts fighting me and anyone else who teaches it. Faith, if you teach it faithfully, you'll still be fought, because people are in shock, or they're just resistant because they've given in to one of these death cults. But to move on quickly, I just would I encourage people to take a proper look at the world's traditional tribal religions. I say tribal because tribes are usually either reference to capital city, original capital city people, or they're referring to dukedoms of the north of an original kingdom, or the south of the original kingdom, or a grouping of dukedoms. That's what tribes are. Sometimes they're actually families within a dukedom, that using so many different surnames over so many millennia of human generations. There's just many different surnames being used. But if the same national insurance number beginning and ending, then you're actually on a continuum of generations from a lot of generations before ours. Please have a look, a proper look, before declaring that traditional religions are evil and of the evil one. What I've just read out is a part of Kyalo Ko's traditional religion. And under Nongoma or Sintu, depending on which one, like divisions people of that people are called to following, there are varieties throughout Kyalo Ko, as there are throughout most original kingdoms. They're worth looking at, because if you compare them with an open mind with the Bible, you're having got the real traditional religions for one thing. You may come across a child's version essentially, and you're wondering, well, what's interesting or uplifting about that, is because you've got the version. Sometimes they're not the child's version; they're the incredibly simplified version for those who find it difficult for varying reasons to cope with the deeper and the higher understanding beliefs of the religion. It's worth it, because your understanding will grow of the Creator, and you'll overcome slandering people, and that is worth it, because slander is wrong, and it will help peace. We do need to make sure, as far as we humanly can, that we are being faithful to the Creator and faithful to the religions and the culture, the histories of the varying kingdoms and regions of the world, which in that attempt to prevent war, so much was hidden that now needs to be unhidden, and the attempt to fight off the evil death cults by withholding teaching has affected a lot of people of my generation. I'm the reigning Cleopatra, the Cleopatra the Ninth, and the generations of humans are actually worked out in relationship to the reigning Cleopatra. Not for my ego, is the way the Creator does things and always has. So I am generation. The reigning Cleopatra is always generation, and generation isn't about age group, Quedders. So people stopped teaching as much, thinking that would head off the resurgence of the Nazis or all sorts of horribles like them around the world. But it's worth divinari, because was it ever meant to be as widely held to this day that my teaching sounds strange to half the Earth's population, or parts of it do? How could that? Okay, I've heard of that, but I've not heard of that. And people pretending they've never heard of Royaume, or they've never heard of divinari even. It's worth praying about. If the word divinari, which is always